This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to another edition of This Day in Sports History. It is December 8th, and on this day we had 36 points scored in the final 2 minutes of an NFL game. The Bears exacted some harsh revenge on Washington, and Wilt Chamberlain scored a lot of points. All that plus a few more tidbits in today's show, but I'll be back with a Snowpocalypse that happened on this day in 2013, right after this.
And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink. Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points. No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there. But Coach, we have another half to play. I don't care. I can't stand to be around you. A few minutes later. All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that? Yes, Coach. Great. sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. sterlingsoap.com. Now, I'm not a weather guy. I can't tell you the difference between barometric pressure and a wet rope blowing in the wind. But there was a big snow event that covered a large area of the Northeast and the Midwest on this day in 2013. And those who like to name things called this big snow event Dion. Snow fell from the sky in buckets and made playing several games a little bit more interesting. Although, according to the Weather Channel, Dion underperformed. Now, if it had been a degree or two cooler, the snow amounts apparently would have been a whole lot bigger. In Philadelphia, the 7-5 Eagles were playing the 7-5 Detroit Lions. Playoff hopes were still dancing in both of those teams' heads like sugar plums. The snow started about 11:30, and by the 1 o'clock kickoff, the field was covered with about 5 inches. By halftime, there was 8 inches of the white stuff at midfield. Detroit took a 14-3 lead after Jeremy Ross took a punt and plowed a path to the end zone. He would add a 99-yard kickoff return for another touchdown later. But Philly's ground game locked in the four-wheel drive and got going. LaShawn McCoy amassed 217 of the Eagles' 299 rushing yards on the day, and he scored twice as the Eagles rolled to the 34-20 win. In Green Bay, it was less about the snow and more about the temperature. It was 8 degrees with a wind chill around -7 at kickoff for the Packers-Falcons game. I mean, there was snow. It wouldn't fit the storyline here if there wasn't some white stuff on the field. But the frigid air made it tough for players, mostly the Falcons, to hang on to the football. Matt Ryan lost the handle on a ball he was intending to pass. The Packers recovered and then turned that into points as Matt Flynn, playing for the injured Aaron Rodgers, hit Andrew Corliss for the go-ahead touchdown. Several Matt Ryan passes hit stone-cold hands of Falcons receivers and fell harmlessly to the ground, and the Packers hung on for the 22-21 win. In Washington, it was the 3-9 Redskins and the 9-3 Chiefs in Andy Reid's first year as Kansas City's coach. The field in Landover looked like it had been powdered with an inch or two. A light snow fell throughout the first half. The weather did not seem to have any effect on the Chiefs. They scored touchdowns on the ground, through the air, and then added a punt return and a kick return for touchdowns.
Looking for a block, here he goes again. Cooper throws a beauty, and there he goes! McCluster by Rocca. He's chased by Paulson, and into the end zone. That is a Kansas City touchdown.
What's a left return? A full head of steam, and he's by the first wall, the second wall, and the kicker can't get it.
Gotta be kidding me.
He's off to the races. Needs a block from Davis. Gets it. Another return for a touchdown by Kansas City. This is embarrassing.
And the Chiefs blew out Washington 45-10. Now, from that one-sided affair, we go to Pittsburgh for a close back-and-forth game between the Steelers and the Dolphins. Snow blanketed Heinz Field with the game-time temp hovering in the lower 20s. Neither team was hesitant to put the ball in the air. The Steelers' Ben Roethlisberger had 349 yards passing along with 3 touchdowns, including his 213th touchdown pass as a Steeler to pass Terry Bradshaw on the franchise list. But it was the Dolphins who looked more like the cold-weather team in this one. They answered Steelers' scores with scores of their own, and they survived a near-miracle lateral-filled final play that first appeared to spring Antonio Brown for the touchdown. But a couple of toes on the sideline at the 13 negated all hope for the prayer to be answered. The Dolphins won 34-28. And now to Baltimore. It was the Ravens and the Vikings. It snowed a good bit more in Baltimore than it did in Landover, despite the proximity. Snow poured down in Baltimore for 5 hours, but this game came down to the final 2 minutes. The Vikings led 12-7 with 2 minutes 10 seconds to play. Here's Chris Myers and Tim Ryan with the call that day for Fox Sports.
Flacco, end zone. Touchdown, Dennis Pitta.
The Ravens went for 2 after that one and got it. 14-12 Ravens. No worries for the Vikings on their next possession a few moments later.
Toby Gerhardt in field goal range. And a lot more. Toby Gerhardt. Touchdown Vikings.
Vikings back in front, 19-14. Ensuing kickoff.
Look out. Jacoby Jones. Jacoby Jones. Touchdown.
22-19 Ravens after the PAT, and there was still 1 minute 16 seconds to play. On the Vikings' next possession, facing a 4th and 10, it was as if Cordero Patterson was wearing ice spikes with everybody else wearing ice skates.
They need to get to the 31 for a first down. Cordero Patterson has it, and the rookie is loose. With 1 man to get past, he puts a move on. Look at Patterson go! I don't believe this! Touchdown Vikings! And there are no flags. 79 yards. Unbelievable.
26-22 Vikings after that one. And how about one more? With 10 seconds left and out of timeouts, Joe Flacco found a way.
Joe Flacco. Back in the end zone. That's Marlon Brown for a touchdown.
That was one of Marlon Brown's 7 touchdown catches that season as a rookie, but none bigger than that one. So there were 6 lead changes in the fourth quarter, and the wildest 125 seconds in recent NFL history, as 36 points were scored in the final 2:05, and the Ravens won 29-26. This episode is brought to you by Firefly Books. From frozen ponds in small-town Canada to packed arenas under bright lights, hockey's journey is 150 years strong. Hockey Hall of Fame Timeline of the Game takes you through it all. 8 defining eras, hundreds of rare photos, legendary names, game-changing moments. Created with the Hockey Hall of Fame, this book is a visual time capsule of the sport's most iconic chapters. Whether you're a die-hard fan or looking for the ultimate holiday gift, Timeline of the Game is a must-have for every hockey lover. Pick up your copy today at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or bookshop.org. On this day in 1940, the Chicago Bears unleashed fury upon Washington's football team in the greatest beatdown in NFL history. A capacity crowd of 36,000 packed Washington's Griffith Field for the NFL championship game between the visiting and slightly favored Bears and their hometown team. Now, it's important to note that these two teams had played each other 3 weeks prior, and what happened at the end of that game and what was said after that game had a huge impact on what happened in this game. In the regular season meeting between these two, the Redskins won 7-3, but a controversial no call on an apparent pass interference in the end zone on the final play of the game sent Bears coach George Halas into a rage. He and the players talked after the game about the missed call being the difference in the game. Washington coach George Marshall heard about the protests, and he called the Bears a bunch of crybabies and said the Bears were only a first-half team. When those words got back to Halas and his players, It was hard to contain their rage, and that fueled what happened on December 8, 1940. Here's Coach Hallis several years later, remembering that day.
And the pep talk before that game was of no consequence. All we had to do is repeat the fact that George Marshall called us crybabies, and they didn't even need that because they went out on the field really psyched up. And between halves, all I said was, remember, fellas, Marshall called us a first half team only, and that took care of everything. So that was you can see, so it was an easy job on the part of the coaching staff to get the team psyched up for that game.
The Bears unbottled their fury on the second play of the game as quarterback Sid Luckman handed the ball to Bill Osmanski, who scampered down the sideline for a 68-yard touchdown run. And the route was on. Chicago led 28-0 at the half. The Bears' defense was impenetrable, allowing only 22 rushing yards and picking off Washington quarterback Sammy Baugh 8 times in the game, running 3 of those back for touchdowns, all of those in the third quarter. The Bears finished with 500 yards in total offense, 382 of that on the ground. Their 7 rushing touchdowns is still the most ever in a playoff game. The 73 points still stands as the most points scored by an NFL team, and the margin of victory is the greatest in American team sports history. Interesting fact, the game was the first NFL title game to be broadcast nationwide on the radio and is credited as being one of the top 10 games that mattered in building professional football to what it is today. Also on this day in sports history, back in 1961, Philadelphia's Wilt Chamberlain lit the scoreboard up, and it may have been the ignition to what happened a few months later. This was the old Philadelphia Warriors against the LA Lakers. Wilt shot the ball 62 times and he scored 78 points to break the old scoring mark of 71 set by Elgin Baylor, who Wilt was going up against on this night. Chamberlain also pulled down 43 rebounds, but it wasn't enough as the Lakers won 151-147 in a triple overtime thriller. Baylor went toe-to-toe with Wilt, scoring 63 points on 55 shots, and he grabbed 31 rebounds. Baylor was asked by Chick Hearn after this one if he was upset that Wilt had topped his record with 3 extra overtime periods. Baylor was less envious and more clairvoyant, saying he wasn't mad. That guy is going to score 100 sometime soon. Chamberlain's 78 actually put the idea in the heads of many that triple digits was possible. And of course, it would happen in March 1962. And time now for today's non-sports fun fact. The actress Grace Kelly died after suffering a stroke while driving, and her car plunged off the side of the road in Monaco. After her death, the car she was driving was crushed into a cube, taken to the middle of the Mediterranean, and sunk. That's it for today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.